Welcome back, my dear learners. Let's learn one more sonnet from William Wordsworth. The title of this sonnet is "The World is Too Much with Us." Just as London 1802 or to Milton was written in 1802 and published in 1807, in the same manner this very particular sonnet, "The World is Too Much with Us," was also composed in 1802 and published in 1807 in a certain collection titled Poems in Two Volumes. My dear learners, just like to Milton is a Petrarchan sonnet divided into two parts, octave of 8 lines and sestet of 6 lines. This very particular sonnet, that is "The World is Too Much with Us," is also divided into two parts, octave of 8 lines and sestet of 6 lines. In this very particular video, I'm just going to cover the first 8 lines, that is the octave of this poem, this sonnet. Now let's look at this very particular sonnet and try to understand each and every lines of this octave. The world is too much with us, late and soon. Getting, G-E-E-T-I-N-G, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. This G-E-T-T-I-N-G, my dear learners, not G-E-T-T, not G-E-T-T-I-N-G, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. So now let's look at the first 2 lines of the poem. The first line of the poem is "The world is too much with us, late and soon." That can be explained in terms of the words like "we have become too much." What? Material. Means the people of this world. Actually, he is talking about the English people. Here "we" stands for English people. He says that the world is too much with us. Here "us" stands for English people. He says that English people have become too much material, so much material that they should not have been. Why? Because by becoming too much material, they have suffered a complete loss of spirituality, complete loss of the moral value. He says late and soon. Late and soon is a kind of a phrase that means they were, late stands for in the past, they were material in the past, and soon future, that they will be material in the future. Here he says that the English people have become too much material, so much material that they have lost their spiritual quality, their spiritual potential and spiritual power. Getting and spending, we lay waste our power, he says in the next line. He says that modern man of today, modern Englishman today is only busy in earning and spending, only busy in accumulating material, just a means of comfort, material means of comfort. He's been only and only trying his level best to earn more and more, and the more he's been earning, the more he's been spending, he says. And by doing that, he says that he has been wasting. He has been wasting his moral value. He has been wasting his potential, that power, that ability, that made England all powerful all over the world at a certain time. Maybe the change here, William Wordsworth is talking about that industrialization that was going on, or that was very rapid at that time William Wordsworth was writing. William Wordsworth here, probably or not probably, he was not actually, or he's not actually happy at all the way the people were growing in their material comfort, or in their own just material just a position. Day by day they were getting stronger and stronger, but the more they were growing in their in their own finance, the more they were suffering the loss of the moral values. The more they were getting material, the less they were spiritual. Spirituality somehow was suffering. See the next line of the poem. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. So he says that now the modern Englishman does not have any value, does not have any importance, particularly for the nature. He says, little we see in nature. Little always gives a negative meaning. It means now the modern Englishman does not have time enough particularly to look at the beautiful just a sight of the nature. And since he does not look at nature, no question arises that he will appreciate nature. He will glorify nature. He will celebrate nature. He says, see the next line, the fourth line of the poem. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. Sordid, something that is bad, something that is vile, V-I-L-E, vile. He says that we have given our hearts away. It means the modern Englishman has sold his heart, particularly for buying what? Material comfort, particularly for accumulating material power. And this kind of a bargain is a very bad kind of a bargain or blessing of this modern time, particularly for William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth and so many other poets of his own time were actually not happy at all the way the country was growing. The country was just progressing. Yes, no doubt at all, the country was progressing as far as the material power was concerned, material wealth was concerned, but no doubt at all that the country was also continually suffering the loss of the moral value, suffering the loss of the spirituality. And it was a spirituality, moral values that supported and sustained the English and held them intact. And it was all because of that William Wordsworth was not happy at all seeing his country growing in terms of material power and material possession. He says, see, we have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. A very good example of oxymoron, because sordid, bad, boon, blessing. How can blessing be boon? How can blessing be bad, vile? But bad, particularly for William Wordsworth. Why? Because no doubt at all his countrymen are growing in material wealth, material power, but at the same time they are suffering the loss of their spirituality, moral values, that is 10 times greater in comparison with that material power and wealth they are accumulating. See, the sea that bears her bosom to the moon. Now here he talks about that natural beauty, that how beautiful the nature is and how benevolent the nature is. In this very particular line, that is probably the fifth line of the poem. Here he first personifies the sea as a woman, and woman, you know that woman is the epitome of love, affection. What kind of a love and affection? The woman generally has a kind of a selfless affection and love. In the same manner, here he means to say that nature mother is absolutely selfless. The nature mother's love does not mean for one, but it means for one and all, for all humanity. So here, when he personifies sea, that is one of the most important element of the nature, he means to say that nature mother is full of love and affection and grandeur, particularly for one and all. How grand it is, how huge it is, how vast it is, how deep it is. But the selfish people, he calls just English selfish in his poem London 1802. In the same manner, here he is also condemning the English for becoming too much material. Because by becoming too much material, now they have forgotten their mother nature, their mother nature. Yes, at all. It's all because of that. Now they do not have time enough to look at the grandeur of the sea, to look at that beautiful moonlit night. And since they do not have time to look at these beautiful spectacles of the nature, they do not appreciate it. They do not glorify it. See what he says. See, the sea that bears her bosom to the moon. So see, how does the moon look when one sees, when the reflection of the moon can be seen on the couch of the water of the sea? How beautiful the sea looks, how grand and vast and deep it looks, and how beautiful that spectacle is. We cannot actually just express in terms of the word the natural grandeur of the nature. How beautiful it is, and how peaceful it is, and how much peace giving it is. See. So see, this line is a very good example of personification. The sea is personified as a woman, all right, and just the depth and the vastness of the sea is actually just compared to the bosom of the a woman, that is the center or the seat of the emotion, love and compassion. See, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and he says that the winds that will be making noise all the time, winds are producing, as long as the wind blows through the jungle, over the seas, it produces a lot of noise. It makes a lot of noises. But here he says, see how beautifully he personifies again the wind when he says that how the wind has become stopped, and after becoming stopped, if the wind has become slow, how does the wind now look like? Just like the sleeping flowers. A very good example of Pathetic fallacy. Very good example of personification. We can see here in this. Are up gathered now like sleeping flowers. But before explaining this, the winds will be howling at all hours. Means wind will be blowing all the time and producing a kind of a noise all the time. So here howling word is used. Howling word is used particularly for denoting particularly a kind of a sound. So if you know that if sound denoting words or words that mean sound are used in a particular line of a poem, that is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia, figure of speech, is used here. Since wind is also personified as a living being, why? Because generally living being make this kind of a sound, so personification is also here. And onomatopoeia is also here. Why? Because here the howling word, alright, that denotes a kind of a sound, okay, also indirectly gives the meaning of its own word. So personification is used. See the next slide. Are gathered up now like sleeping flowers. But he said, now the wind has died down. Wind has slowed down. And when the wind has slowed down, how does the wind look like? The wind looks like sleeping flowers. It means pathetic fallacy. A very good example of pathetic fallacy. When human emotions or traits are transferred straightway from a living object to the objects of the nature, it is pathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy is a term usually used or greatly used or coined by John Ruskin. So here he talks about the different kinds of winds or breezes blowing from the different direction. He does not use this word in the singular sense. He uses in plurality. If he talks about the winds, it means he has in his own mind eastern wind, he has in his own mind western wind, just like P.B. Shelley in his own poem, Ode to the West Wind, talks about different kinds of wind blowing from the different direction, causing different kind of impact on the earth, in the sky, and over the sea. In the same manner, here is talking different kinds of wind blowing from the different direction, but at present all the wind have died down. And how do they look like? Just like the sleeping flowers. So since winds are compared to the sleeping flowers, alright, actually it is pathetic fallacy. For everything, we are out of tune. So he says, for this reason and for every possible reason, the modern English man at the time of William Wordsworth has lost his connection with the nature forever, he says. He said, and it's all because of that. Modern man is out of tune, means out of order. No connection with the nature at all. There was a time man found himself connected with the nature. Particularly he is talking about the common man. Why? Because William Wordsworth and all other romantics were the common men and were the voice of the common men. So common men lived in the lap of the nature. They had close association and connection with the nature. But that close connection and close association between modern common man and the nature somehow was being affected by the rapid growth of England, all because of industrialization and urbanization. Thank you, my dear learners, for watching this video. Hope this explanation of mine will help you understand this octave of this poem. In the next video, I'll just explain it to you, the sestet of the poem. Thank you, my dear learners.